Welcome back for the first time this off-season. CBB Rank is back. We are approaching the college basketball season. Still quite a bit to go, but we continue to count down teams 100 through 1 until the first day of the season. Of course, I'm Matt Mlodzinski. Got Dan Siegel and Ariel Puterman with me. Back for another year covering college basketball. And we today are counting down our first 10 teams 100 through 91. Obviously, these are teams that are maybe a little bit on people's radars, but maybe a little bit outside the general knowledge as far as college basketball goes. We like to talk about early top 25s. Well, we do a way too early top 100 here. And guys, before we dive into it, I do want to ask you guys how excited you are for this college basketball season. You guys just give me your quick answers. I mean, what are the quick hits as we head into the season?
You go first, Ariel.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I feel like last year there was a clear cream of the crop, and they were good the whole year, and really wasn't a debate who the best teams were. And while that last season was awesome, there wasn't a lot of parity. I think this season could be the opposite of that. I think Houston, Purdue, who will obviously get to way closer to number one. We're starting at 100 here. They're looking great, but there's a lot of really good teams. A lot of great players left last year, which means that the Naismith Player of the Year award should be really competitive. I'm really excited. We're in that part of the summer where college football is about to start, NFL is about to start, college basketball starts to get on the radar. So this is a really exciting time of the year, and I can't wait.
Yeah, same here. I mean, any college basketball season is awesome around here. I can't really think of like a consensus opinion, whether it's an award or even freshman of the year, national player of the year. Well, freshman of the year, maybe AJ DeBanza, but like there's just a lot of there's a lot of parity. There's a lot of like debate preseason. I like that. I like when there's not groupthink. Everybody thinks one thing. That's no fun for preseason content. And like you said, we're starting at 100, going to 91 today. So that's where we'll start, right?
Yeah, and that's where we're going to start. Number 100 in the Mountain West, Colorado State. That's our first team. Obviously, you've been following us along on social media and on our website. You've seen us already talk about these teams, but we'll dive into it a little bit quicker and deeper here on this pod. So number 100, Colorado State. Before I toss it to you guys, the big thing here, Ali Farouk-Manesh, the new head coach, one of the best moments in March Madness history, and now he takes over as head coach of the Rams, looking to continue what's been a program that's had a lot of success here out west, one of the top teams just in that part of the United States. Dan, why don't I start with you? Your first thoughts on this Colorado State team?
Yeah, and I think, do I have the right shade of green on right now, or is it a little bit bit lighter? I think
we'll work with it.
Yeah, but yeah, they're coming off of that second round loss to Maryland in the tournament, the controversial one with the Derek Queen. Did he travel? Did he not? Either way, Nico Medved off to Minnesota, and I'll be honest. I mean, they went the assistant route. They promoted their assistant, of course, like you mentioned, and between that and their roster, there's a reason why Colorado State, who's pretty much always a top 50 team, is more middle of the pack Mountain West and a maybe not so great Mountain West, one that might bounce back this year. And the one guy I do like on their team, Josh Pasquarelli from Marist, he was a guy I got to see play a couple of times. I think he is my team MVP, but this roster is not looking great. Ariel, what about you?
Yeah, they lose a lot. I mean, Nick Clifford's the big one, top 15 player you can argue in the country last year. They lose Jalen Lake as well, really great player for them. Kite Evans is a great shooter. Crocker Johnson as well, almost a 10-point per game scorer. The one guy that's really intriguing me on this roster is Kerry Booth, and you wrote about it a little bit. But he started at Notre Dame, former high 4-star recruit, couldn't really produce there, went to Illinois trying to get a new start, couldn't produce there. Now, obviously, the Mountain West is a great conference, but it's not a power conference, so he's kind of taking a little bit of a step down. Dan, like you said, the Mountain West isn't as strong as it was a few years ago. So I wonder if a new scenery, maybe playing a little bit down, is going to be the difference maker for him. And if he can finally figure it out, he's a great talent, good size, good just overall basketball IQ, but he just hasn't figured it out. Can this be what turns him around? And if he can, then their ceiling could be a lot higher than 100.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick, we were fighting on what teams were going to be the last teams in CBB rank, which is kind of funny because no matter what, these teams are going to have tough roads to make the NCAA tournament if our projections are right. Colorado State is one of those teams. They bring in a lot of guys from the power conference that maybe didn't play a lot, maybe weren't key players, and we'll see if Ali Farouk-Manesh can and this coaching staff can really turn them around. Kerry Booth, Brandon Recksteiner, a guy from Virginia Tech as well. Shot the ball terrible there. It was like well under 40%, but you never know. Change the scenery. He got some minutes at VTech. Maybe this is a new outlook for him here at Colorado State. But anyways, the Rams, number 100. Let's move on to number 99, a team that I fought hard to get into this top 100, and I'll start with Ariel because I know that you disagree with me a lot, and that is Navy.
Yeah, I really don't have too much to say, so I'll keep it quick because I know you have a lot more than me. I don't have Navy as like a top 200 team, to be honest. Yes, they return a lot, but they were good last year. Returning players on a bad team doesn't mean they're going to be good. Their conference is pretty weak. They'll probably win the conference, but I don't have much good to say about them. I'm surprised we even made it into the top 100, but Dan or Matt, if you want to prove me wrong, the floor is yours.
Dan, you got it?
I mean, I'm more with Ariel. I think I kind of fall in between you guys. I'd say they're a top 150 team. I think it is a little crazy that we ended up putting them in the top 100. They do have a new coach as well, John Perry. He was the associate head coach for 12 years there. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. They're super undersized as well, something that we mentioned in the article. We project their four-man to be Donovan Draper, who is 6'4". Now, of course, Austin Benigni, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Benini
returns with the rest of the starting five. So, you should see improvement, but they weren't like a borderline top 100 team. I don't think they're necessarily somebody I would put there. But, Matt, I'll leave the floor to you now.
Look, the biggest thing for Navy is Austin Benini is definitely one of the top mid-major scorers. I know Navy wasn't great last year. They also weren't necessarily terrible. I mean, they could have been 500 if they started the season better. So I think when you got a star like him, I wanted to include him and just how much they bring back. In today's day of age, you just don't see it. So how much better maybe this Navy team can be. And I'll end on this. I mean, they won 7 of their last 9 games before losing in that Patriot League final. So this is a team we almost saw play March Madness last year. Again, that doesn't mean they're necessarily good. But, hey, maybe new coach gets them re-energized. They build off that finish last year. And maybe we see Navy be the new Colgate in the Patriot League. But I think we have talked enough about Navy because we can agree that this shouldn't be a team that you really track until February pops up and you're like, whoa, that team's 12-4 in the awful Patriot League. Are they going to be a team to pick as a 15-2 upset? I'll be honest there. We'll move on to number 98, and that has been the darling of the past couple years in mid-major basketball. That is McNeese, but not really the same team this year. No Will Wade, no Kadir Copeland, no guys like that on this team anymore. And obviously, they were just darlings last year because of their student manager that took over social media. But it's a new story at McNeese. Ariel, we'll go back to you on this one. Do you want to explain what we should look forward to from the Cowboys?
Yeah, I think they've got 2 players who I really like. I like DJ Richards, former UTSA Roadrunner, came to McNeese last year and was solid, but they had so much talent on that team that he kind of took a back seat. Now he's their main guy. I think he could be great. And then a former Seton Hall Pirate here, Garway Duwall, didn't really show anything his first 2 years of college, but I like his upside. I think he could be good playing down and a pretty weak conference besides McNeese. I think that he could maybe be like a 10 to 13 point per game scorer, be a pretty good defender, maybe make an all-conference team. And I think that duo should be enough to make them a top 100 team. I could see this not being close and them being closer to 150, but I like their upside, and I think they did a good job this offseason.
Yeah, once again, the heavy favorites in the Southland Conference, McNeese being the only one out of the Southland in our CBB rank. Javon Garcia is back, former UMass Minutemen Javon Garcia. I really liked him there. It's great to see this star or maybe just great role player that he's turned out to be. And they do lose everyone else. The transfer replacements are not as strong. They got a point guard from Seton Hall, like you mentioned, bigs from Oklahoma and SMU, another team with power conference guys that are transferring down and didn't play that much. But I do like head coach Bill Armstrong. He does have a very valid resume. He was the former assistant at LSU under Will Wade. He was under Scott Drew at Baylor. So he's learned from the best, and I think that means a lot at this level. And he has the makings of a up-and-coming hot commodity in the head coaching market for sure.
Yeah, look, this is a Cowboys team that certainly has what it takes to win their conference again, but I don't think it's going to be as dominant as it has been the past couple of years. They'll probably lose a few more games. They might not make the NCAA tournament, but I think they'll still be a top seed, a team to beat in the Southland. Honestly, for me, it's starting lineup's not too bad. It's what's this bench going to be? Because Will Wade had McNeese playing well 1 through 10, and just doesn't look like the same type of team this season.
And no
We'll
Amir
move on
Khan.
to what's that?
And no Amir Khan.
And no Amir Khan. We have to shout out Amir Khan because he was the good luck charm for McNeese last year. It was clear. We move on to Miami of Ohio. Yeah, not Miami, Florida, but this is Miami of Ohio out of the MAC. We got some action here at number 97. This is a team that I backed pretty strongly, so I'll start here. And, look, Travis Steele, he's still at Miami. He's done a pretty good job there coaching in the MAC. I mean, that's a former Big East guy. So when you got a coach like that and you keep him and retain him and he hasn't gone anywhere, I think that's number one. Yeah, you lose Cam Kraft, but this is a team that brings back a pretty good amount of their rotation. And I'll just say, if you want a 3-point ball, then this is a team to look at. I mean, this team is just outstanding from behind the arc. They bring back most of their guys from last season. I'll let you guys add because I said a lot there. Dan, what else do you have to say about this Miami team?
I think shooting is where you start. Point guard, Evan Ipsaro, 42%. Ian Elmer, 40%. Brant Byers, the front court, 41% last year. And that doesn't even include their all-conference player returning in Peter Suter. Usually when you have an all-conference player at the mid-major level, they're going to transfer up. He doesn't have these insane statistics, but I think it's big to return 6 of your top 8 scorers in a year that you win 25 games. I think they're the clear favorite in the MAC, and they could really dominate. Of course, the way the MAC tournament is set up, it's single elimination, 3 rounds, no buys, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think they're at large worthy, most likely, but this will be a fun team to watch and a not very good but very fun conference. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, Peter Suter rules. He's one of my favorite players in the mid-major standings. The semifinal and the final, he scored 23 and 24 points for them, and he can just shoot the ball at such a high level, and he's such a fun player to watch. So if you're looking for a mid-major guy this year, look for Suter, especially with Kraft gone, like you said. He could really step up and be one of the best mid-major players in not even the conference, but in the whole country.
And then I just want to add this. You bring back in their 8-man rotation 7 guys that played on this team last season. So sure, there might be a couple freshmen that have to play because they lost a couple more bench rotation guys other than Cam Kraft. So you figure 1 or 2 guys are going to have to step up as the season goes along. But then you look at a Bradley transfer, Almer Atlason, and you say, how is this guy going to fit on this team, right? You move over from Bradley to Miami. This is a Miami team that shot the 3-point ball, the 3rd best in the nation last season. So is this guy going to fit? Well, guess what? Bradley led the nation in 3-point percentage last season. So I think when you look at that, going from a team like Bradley to Miami, kind of the same type of fit overall. And he played for a good coach with the Braves, too. So it just seems like Travis Steele knows what he wants. He's going to build off last year. They lose a little bit, but they're going to be right back at the top of the MAC next season. We'll move on to the College of Charleston. I spoke a lot there, so I'm just going to hand this one off right away to Ariel. What should we know about College of Charleston? Again, another team, by the way, like these teams that we've already said, teams that have kind of been at the top of the mid-major level the past handful of seasons. We see them now maybe a little bit lower in CBB rank than we're used to, but we still have to give them props for a team that we should watch.
Yeah, I think a big theme in this 100 through 91 is good coaches with not as good teams. I mean, we just talked about Steele. We talked about Farouk Manesh, and we have a bunch coming up, which we'll talk about in a second. But this team on paper doesn't look great. They lost a lot this offseason, including Ante Berzovic, who was one of the best mid-major players in the country. This team is also very young. There's a chance they start 3 sophomores this year, which is, in this day of age, pretty rare, especially for a mid-major team. But with the youngness of their team has a lot of potential. I mean, they have a guy on their team named Mr. Dean. That's his actual name. Mister is his first name. And he was awesome last year for USC Upstate. He had 15.7 points per game. And he's really athletic, really great player. And Colby Duggan as well from Campbell, 16-point per game guys. So really young team, good coach. Hopefully it translates into success for them.
Yeah, getting Chris Mack was the best case scenario after losing Pat Kelsey to Louisville. Pat Kelsey sticking around at Charleston for a couple extra years than I think he needed to, which is, says a lot about Charleston and the attractiveness of that job. Chris Mack going there says a lot as well, because I didn't think Chris Mack really got a fair reputation, a fair situation at Louisville, and I think he's a heck of a head coach, and they do bring in a lot of productive players that, albeit lower major D2, some JUCO guys, but that has been a formula at this level of college basketball that has worked. We've seen it before. Teams like even Drake last year, which we'll get to later. And I think another thing about this team, the last thing I'll say, is the size. Size is very important at this level of college basketball. And here is our projected top 7 in terms of height. We got 6'3", 6'6", 6'6", 6'7", 6'10", 6'5", and then a 7-foot Division II transfer, 7-foot JUCO transfer coming off the bench.
It's important. Size matters in college basketball, boys. I want to bring up Connor Hickman, too. Look, a grad senior that comes over from Cincinnati, and we have him as the projected 8th man in this lineup right now, but he averaged a couple points in the Big 12. What can a guy like that bring to the College of Charleston, right? Does he be a key guy off the bench that kind of reins in this team, or is that a guy that we should watch out for to get a lot of minutes and to do damage at the Big 12 level? So I think there is a lot of upside here on this College of Charleston team. I do agree. Maybe not as good of a roster as we've seen in the past, but I think Chris Mack has a lot to work with here, and I think that we should be, honestly, a team that maybe a little bit wary of to begin the season, but as the season goes on, don't be surprised when we see this team is like 15-3 or something, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, they're back. So that's the College of Charleston for you. We move on to number 94, and that's UNLV. We go out to a team, again, a program that had a real good heyday not too long before my time. I know we weren't alive to see it, but I feel like there's some old heads out there that are always like, man, is UNLV going to be good this year? And no, sorry, you just haven't been watching college basketball for 30 years. But hey, maybe this is the year that the Running Rebels can be decent to watch because we've got them in our top 100. Guys, what do you think about UNLV?
Yeah, ACC enthusiast Josh Pastner is out to the Mountain West. What a weird fit, but I think he's a good head coach for them. They got a couple guys on their roster. 2024 top 50 recruit Naz Cunningham will get a chance to really shine. High Point transfer Kimani Hamilton, great scorer. UC Irvine transfer Miles Chi as well. UC Irvine, will get to them later this episode as well. Just a little teaser there. So Josh Pastner has his guys. I mean, 95 for UNLV is definitely above where they usually are, but we've talked about 2 Mountain West teams so far, one with more storied recent past and a worse roster. I think of the 2 rosters, UNLV definitely has a significantly better one.
Ariel, I know you want to say a lot about Kimani Hamilton, so the floor is open.
Oh, man, I love my High Point guys. High Point had like 6 guys last year who could have easily played Power 5, but they're like, I can get a free steak as one of my classes at High Point, which apparently is a thing. So they all stuck around, but now Alan Huss is gone and they're all their separate paths. But I think Kimani Hamilton could be very productive in the Mountain West on this team. I think Pastner will rely a lot on the older guys, more experienced guys early on, and he can handle that. You talked about Naz Cunningham. I think he's awesome. I mean, he's a top 50 recruit, really athletic. He could be one of the better defenders in the country, not even just his conference. So I'm really excited to see them. I think this could be a team that could surprise everyone and maybe even be an at-large team. I could also see them being a team that just crumbles and things get pretty ugly pretty quickly, just with the way their roster is constructed and the new coach and just UNLV in general, just not being much of a basketball program the last 30 years before Matt's time.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a fun team to watch. I think it's one of those teams where you look at some of the mid-major teams before us, and we've got them as teams that can win 20-plus games. I don't think that's what we're saying with UNLV. I think what we're saying is this is a team that's probably going to win 18 or 19 games and be a little bit above 500 in the Mountain West, but maybe don't be surprised if they wind up winning a few more than we expect, but also don't be surprised if they have another UNLV season and go literally 500 in everything. So that's UNLV for you at 95. Number 94, this is one of those teams that we probably do think is going to win more close to 25 games, and that's UC Irvine, because Russell Turner, we've had him on the show before, so I'll say a lot of high praise about him. He just knows basketball. He understands basketball. He understands what he needs to recruit at UC Irvine. He understands how to keep winning, and win is something that they do a lot. They won 32 games last year. It was one of his best seasons there, and he's had a lot of them. I have a lot of good to say about him. Ariel, we'll start with you this time. What do you have to say about this year's team? Because they did lose 4 guys who scored over 12 points a game last season or more.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about him as well. And I think the only reason they're really in the 100 is because when all else fails, trust Russell Turner. I mean, they won 32 games last year. That's the most wins they've ever had in program history. They made the NIT final, and they really should have won. But a little bit of unluckiness happened their way. They lost a lot, though, and I'm really worried about the roster. The one guy I am intrigued about, that was Darren Sarand. He was the starting point guard for their team 2 years ago, averaged 10 points a game, said, you know what, I'm good enough to play in the power conferences. Went to Stanford, barely got any minutes, got hurt. Now he's back. He'll probably be their starting point guard again. And I think with that experience, going to Stanford where they have a really great coach there, and then going back to another great coach in Russell Turner, I think he could be a really interesting player. The rest of the team, though, I think they're asking for a lot, and I think the defense is really going to carry them. It'll be interesting to see where they end up in the Big West.
Yeah, I think you guys echoed my sentiments on Russell Turner and the players that they lost. I think Andre Henry is another guy I want to mention. He is the guy that we mentioned as our MVP for the team. 6th year in the program. This is a young team, so having a guy that has been in college basketball and in the program for 6 years, that's a real rarity nowadays. But yeah, it's going to be a team that if they're going to win games, it's going to be making stops. They were 33rd in defensive efficiency last year in Torvik. They're projected as 62nd this year, which is still pretty good, but I don't expect their offense to be in the top 100. This is going to be a defensive-based team, and that's where coaching comes in. And Russell Turner, We
also should say they were the runner-up in the NIT last year, so this was a team that came off a really good high last season. If they have a little bit of a down year, I think it's okay because he'll probably figure it out. So UC Irvine in there at 94. Optimistically, but we'll see. Move number 93 in the always fun Atlantic 10. We've got George Washington at 93. Ariel, you wrote about them. They've got Chris Caputo, who came from the Jim Larinaga situation over at Miami. It's his 3rd season at GW now. He was an assistant over there at Miami. I should say coaching tree. I don't know why I said situation. That was a weird verbiage by me. But coached under Jim Larinaga. Now he's got his own program. And honestly, George Washington was never that great in the A-10, and he seems to be kind of doing a pretty good job with them. So year 4 is always a big year. Seems like we're pretty optimistic about GW. Ariel, are they a team that we think could win the Atlantic 10?
Win will be tough. I think Atlantic 10 doesn't have a clear, VCU's by far the best team or Dayton's by far the best team, but it'll be tough. But I'm pretty bought in on George Washington. I couldn't believe those words were going to come out of my mouth just based off how the last 10 years have gone. But I think Caputo's really turned it around. I mean, this is a team that didn't win 20 games for 10 years, and last year they did that. And then this year they returned their leading scorer, shot blocker, and rebounder in Rafael Castro. They bring back Garrett Johnson, who missed all of last year, but the season before he averaged about 13 points a game. And they had a lot of mid-major guys who were very productive on their teams last year, just as depth pieces. So I think the A-10 will be really competitive, and I think a few wins could bounce their way just with good coaching and that experience like we talked about, but then also having that depth, which will go a long way come February and March when things get tough and the defense gets a little bit tighter.
Yeah, I'm in on GW as well. They have Rafael Castro, who you mentioned another thing about him. He plays really good defense as well. He is able to defend without fouling, something that is an underrated asset for bigs, being able to stay on the court for all those minutes. I think the reinforcements that they brought in, Trey Dinkins from Duquesne, Gene Aranguren from Hofstra, the guy that I saw torch my school, Boo Boo Benjamin from Tarleton State. I mean, this team is top heavy, and this team is deep. They have returners that averaged well into double digits last year. They have reinforcements. They have the making of a mid-major, an A-10 school that has one of those well above their norm years. I think that is exactly what we're looking at with GW. So I totally see this as a team finishing at worst top 5 in the A-10.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, guys. I think that George Washington maybe should be top 75 in our CBB rank as I look at it again. I mean, they look like they're going to go
top 25 team next year.
Yeah, I mean, they could go 9 deep. They got Luke Hunger. They are going to go 9 deep. There's almost no way this team doesn't go 9 deep. And then Luke Hunter's kind of like that 10th guy that might not play in all the games, but he might be if guys get in foul trouble, I mean, this is a guy that played at Northwestern and understands what Big Ten basketball is made of, and can clearly translate to the Atlantic 10. So I just look at this team, so much size, so many guys that can play multiple positions. You look at a guy like Tyrone Marshall at 6'7", 215, a guy that can easily guard really 2 through 4 if he's asked on it. And, other guys like Trey Autry that has a ton of size, can shoot the 3. He can guard multiple positions. It just seems like there's so much here for Chris Caputo to work with, and there's a big reason why George Washington is a team that we should follow closely. So I think that we probably should rank them a bit higher, but hey, let's hide that knowledge a little bit. We'll keep that to ourselves a bit. Let's keep George Washington from the rest of the college basketball community. We'll move on. We got 2 more teams. What's that?
I'm sure you'll get good value on a future, so maybe throw a couple dollars on there.
Yeah, actually, don't listen to us at all, guys. We didn't say a word. We're keeping George Washington to ourselves. We can't really keep this next team to ourselves because they've been very good for a while, and that is Drake. But Drake, over the past couple of years, has been a team that has brought back a lot of the same guys. Obviously, now a new coach. There's no Bennett Sturts anymore. They're off to Iowa. And Drake, well, they're still in Iowa, the state of Iowa, that is. But we're not sure if they're going to be the pride of Iowa this season. We got them in the top 100 because of past performances. But, guys, I think like some of these past teams we talked about, it just seems like it's going to be up to how does this actual team perform under Eric Henderson.
Yeah, so I put this in my article. I think Eric Henderson is one of those hires that's going to be good in like the medium term for Drake. It's one of those hires that you're not necessarily going to have him unless he has some outlier great year, in which case you're happy this happens. But I think he's there for 3 to 4 years because of the way he treated the South Dakota State job, right? He didn't peak recently. It's not like, oh, he's coming off of some crazy above the norm year where he won 30 games. No, he was very sustained with his success for 6 years in the Summit League. Now, you mentioned it. You alluded to it at least. Drake is at 92, right? Why is Drake not in the top 50, the top 40 like usual? Well, the roster kind of stinks, right? Owen Larson is probably their best player. He comes from South Dakota State, and he's a guy that could break out. He had a very good freshman year, so I'm excited about him. I don't really know where else you could look. A guy that is a little bit under the radar that probably nobody's heard of, but on Drake message boards, people are going crazy, is Eli Shetler. He's a guy that could shoot the absolute lights out of the ball. He redshirted last year. They do have size, but I'm trying to find their redeeming quality roster-wise, and I think this could be a down year for Drake. What does that mean? Probably 20 to 22 wins and maybe an NIT.
Yeah, I agree with your take. I think they're not a top 100 team, but if we left them off top of 100 and they figured it out again, because they always seem to, it's like these idiots didn't put Drake in their top 100, even though we knew they were going to end up as a top 100 team. I like the hire. I think it was a good hire. I agree with you. I don't think it's a one and done situation, although that seems to be the case with a lot of these mid-major guys, as teams are just picking up whoever they think is best. But I think he'll be there for a few years, and I think he needs some time to build that roster. He's not going to bring in guys from – he didn't really bring in guys from South Dakota State, unlike Ben McCullum, who brought in Sturts and Muscari and a lot of those guys from last year. And then obviously DeVries brought in his son, which helped a lot. He didn't really do that. So I'm not too optimistic about this team, but it is the Drake Bulldogs, and they always figure it out. So I wouldn't look past them by any means.
Look, that's just the big thing for me here is you got a guy like Tucker DeVries, then you got a guy like Bennett Sturts. You have guys that can just take over games. Where is that on Drake? But maybe that's not Eric Henderson's style, right? He brings along his point guard from South Dakota State. If you can do that, then you can really start whatever you want to build, right? That's a big thing if you're a coach and you can bring your point guard with you. So I think we just have to look at that as what it is, right? He's got his point guard. He's got some other guys to work with. Let's see if he can work some magic here. But I think we have Drake, honestly, in a pretty good spot here because I do think they're going to be decent, but I don't think they're going to be the Drake that we've seen the past couple of years that loses like 4 games in the regular season. And we're talking about a mid-major team getting an at-large bid. That just isn't this Drake team. We've got one more team in our countdown for today as we're approaching the end of our podcast. And that's a fun team in Yale. I'll talk about Yale a little bit for my home state of Connecticut. Connecticut's team, if you will, honestly. Like if you look at college basketball over the past couple of years in Connecticut, no team, in my opinion, has been more fun to watch, has done better for the game than your Yale Bulldogs. And I don't even know if there's a close second. So
Central Connecticut State was pretty good last year.
Central Connecticut, you got Sacred Heart, you got Fairfield, you've got New Haven now moving up to Division One. I don't think Quinnipiac. So I was leading out Quinnipiac. So those are your Connecticut teams. You lose John Pulakidis, you lose Bez Bang. You got other guys back on this Yale team, though. That's my thing, guys. Nick Townsend's back. And when you got a guy back, when you don't lose all of your big three and you can at least bring one back, I think you're still going to be at or near the top of a conference like the Ivy League. Do you guys agree with me? Is Yale the team to beat in the Ivy?
Team to beat? Like, probably, but I don't think it's a clear cut. Like, I don't think Yale is that much above the rest of the pack. And Nick Townsend returning is huge. They also got some role players, Casey Simmons, Isaac Seliskar, Samson Allerton. I think this is like another perennial, like, Yale is solid. Yale's probably at the top of the Ivy League top two. They're in the mix, but it'll all come down to those 2 days in, is it Providence again this year?
I haven't checked.
Okay. But either way, I think it's just going to come down to those 2 days. Like they're not above the pack, but like the sustainability they've had at head coach, like James Jones is there for his 27th season. Like, can we appreciate that? That's gotta be one of the longest tenured head coaches at a school in Division I college basketball. It might be the longest, is it?
He's got to be up there with all the guys retiring.
Yeah.
There's
and all
this someone else.
He didn't start anywhere else, right? He started at Yale and he's been there for 27 years. So that's incredible.
Good trivia question.
I'll do my research.
Yeah, go ahead, Ariel. You
go ahead while I'm looking up.
I agree. I don't think like Yale's the clear cut. They're going to go undefeated or lose one game in the Ivy. I think Nick Townsend alone, though, is good enough to win the conference, especially with Caden Pierce sitting out the whole year for Princeton and Xavier Lee leaving, and just the Ivy League in general losing a lot of talent, which is a bummer. Yale's consistent. They're going to win games. They're probably going to make the tournament. Losing John P. was a big loss. We knew he was going to leave because he graduated, but they still have the talent there. So I trust Yale. I think this is a good spot for them.
Guys, I got our answer. We've got a tie with Mark Few, but we've got two coaches that have coached longer with their respective teams. One of them is pretty obvious. Coaches pretty close to a blue blood. They haven't been as good the past couple seasons, but we really should know this guy. He's a college basketball coaching legend. He's pretty much the last guy that hasn't retired.
Same school.
No, not Samson.
Easier than that. You're going to be mad when you don't get it. Dan, you're literally repping the team by wearing your shirt.
Scott Drew?
Tom Izzo.
Oh, Tom Izzo. Duh.
And the other one is not obvious one because this team hasn't been as good, but we all know him, Greg Campy at Oakland.
Right. Yeah.
Since the mid-'80s. But I do like the point, though. I do want to admit a mistake when I was listing the Connecticut teams. I feel like I should throw in the Hartford Hawks because they also were a D1 team until not too long ago. So that was my omission. So I do apologize to my great state there. That pretty much does it for our podcast. These are our first 10 teams on the countdown from 100 to 91. Again, stick with us on cbbreview.com. Stick with us on our Instagram, CBB Review. We're counting down all the teams on there. I will admit, I'll take the most of this. We are a little bit behind on our articles. We will catch up. I promised you, if you're watching this, we are catching up in the midst of that right now. But please look at our Instagram because we are up to date there, posting every team every day as we reach our number one. Guys, any closing thoughts on these top 10? Or first 10, I should say.
Yeah, I think, like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of teams with great coaches and maybe not as good rosters. And I think that coaching will really shine here. I think all these teams are capable of making the tournament except for Navy. If they do, maybe just an automatic bid there. But, it's exciting just to be here, and we'll keep writing. We'll have a lot more in-depth articles on the actual site. So if you want to hear a little more about these teams, make sure to visit those and visit the CBB rank. But other than that, we got a great 90 through 81 coming up as well.
Yeah, I might end up talking myself into Charleston being a lot higher than 96, but I think, that's a theme. Like, great coaches, a lot of new coaches too, with, a lot of upside, but unproven rosters for sure.
And I think my thing here is I will throw Navy in this bunch, but I think between Navy, Miami, George Washington, and Yale, I think almost half of the teams we talked about today are legit teams that could legitimately win their conference tournaments. So I think we should look at those teams as teams to watch. But obviously, a long time until then. We're still in August right now. But again, these are our first 10 teams. And we'll be back next time with teams 90 through 81. So for Ariel, Puterman, and Dan Siegel, I'm Matt Mlodzinski. Keep it locked here on CBB Review.